found this pitcher plant at the farmer's market. It was a really good price too, so it's nice to know that certain species of tropical pitcher plants are actually going down in price and being more affordable. And I'm not sure what species of Nepenthes this is, but as it grows, maybe the pictures will reflect more of what type of variety it is. And I have these you can buy them, and sometimes they come with bulbs, like for certain daffodils, like paper whites or something, and the bulb sits, the bulb sits here, and then the roots go into water. And since Nepenthes, they like a lot of water, but they don't like the soil they're in to be waterlogged. I figure I can plant them here, and then the water can drain down into here for excess. And they started having these pots. You buy plants at Lowe's, and they have essentially a plastic with a string, so then it wicks up water from the watering tray and goes up into the soil. So here's one I removed. And basically, the wick would go in here, then where the grooves are, they'd go here. The wick would go through here, and that would clamp and stick in the hole at the bottom. So I'm actually going to use a wick in here to help wick the water up to the planting media to keep it moist, and this way I don't keep overfilling this and then not able to drain it. And I took a zip tie and I made this contraption. So what I did with the zip tie is I zipped it, I ran the zip, I made that a little too tight, but then I flipped it around, flattened that so it's more circular, and using a pair of scissors, these are cheap scissors, I cut it. So anyway, now that I demonstrated that, I have two different sizes. I can figure out if this one will work. So what I want to do is set it in there, and that one is too small. So I won't use that, I'll use the one I made beforehand. And what this will do is, by sitting in there, this will literally provide an area for the wick to grab onto. So now I have this there, and don't worry about the fact that these were used with regular soil. Nepenthes can handle more dissolved minerals in the water than most carnivorous plants. And you can always rinse these out. I rinced them out because this one here, you can see it's a little brown and stained from the water it was in. Here I have a container of long fiber sphagnum moss from Chile. You can buy this from Lowe's as a brand called Orchid Moss. And I added a little distilled water to it. So this now is moistened, and that can go in here. And I have now this Nepenthes to plant. What I may eventually do is take some black canvas or something and make a skirt around here that goes from here down to keep algae from growing in the water. But as you can see, this can sit nicely. If I try to use a pot, and you have the pots used for hydroponics that are like baskets, they're still too tall. So that's one reason for having that thing at the bottom. And going to look at this, I want to make sure, that might have a little algae and not really the moss turning green. That's something you have to be careful with, but I do want to add a little more sphagnum moss to the edges, maybe even have some hanging down to help with the wicking. Just want to make sure it's not going to fall in. I consider trying, if a little falls in, I guess it would be okay, but you want this more around the edges. Might be better just to completely root this. You can see how they put this in a little starter tray with peat moss, and I might just remove this, set that there, and then put sphagnum moss around it. This way I'm not really disturbing the roots that much and damaging the plant. But sometimes people kill these not from dryness, humidity levels or not adequate light, but from overwatering. And you need a lot of water, but not waterlogged. So here I have this setup. I'm going to add just a little more of the moss. I may put a few pieces of live sphagnum on top and make that eventually look nicer, but in the meantime, this should be adequate enough to get it started and established in this setup. So let me bring this closer so you can see what I've been doing. First I thought maybe I was wetting too much sphagnum moss, but it turns out that I'm not. And you don't want this too tight, but you don't want it also too loose to where it's more airy than wet, and you don't want it more wet than airy. You just want a really good balance so the roots can have enough oxygen and be adequately watering the plant. There we go. And since this is distilled water in here, I can actually use this to start with the watering. So anyway, I hope you liked this video, and thanks for watching, and hopefully if you decide to try this, it will work out well for you, and thanks for watching.